The rain was falling softly when Elisa parked her old car in front of her late grandmother's house. With a single suitcase in the back seat and a heart full of tension, she wasn't sure if she had returned to run away from the world or to finally face it again. It had been 10 years since she last set foot in that coastal town, and not by accident. Elisa had left behind memories she'd rather bury: grief, a distant father, and most of all, a love she never had the courage to live. Noah. Her childhood best friend. Her silent crush. The one reason she still hesitated to open the windows of that house again. But destiny never waits for us to be ready. That very afternoon, when she stepped out to buy bread, she bumped into him. His eyes still had that ocean blue color. But now, they carried something more. Unspoken questions. Elisa and Noah had grown up together. They shared bikes, secrets, sunsets, and long silences. When they were teenagers, something changed. Their glances lasted longer, their touches more careful. And the world seemed to slow down when they were near each other. But Elisa ran. When her mother died, she disappeared. No goodbyes. No letters. Noah tried to reach her, but she never answered. Now they were strangers. And still, somehow, deeply connected. After their awkward encounter at the bakery, Noah showed up the next day with coconut bread. "I figured you still liked this," he said. Elisa laughed. And from that moment on, they started seeing each other more often. He helped her organize the house, fix the porch, and sometimes they just sat listening to old music. But every time their eyes lingered for too long, Elisa looked away. She was afraid to reopen old wounds, or worse, to open her heart again. Noah never pressured her. But his gestures said everything. He was still there. He just needed to know if she was too. One evening, Elisa found a box of her grandmother's letters in the basement. Among them was one never sent, addressed to her. It spoke of her mother's past, and a truth Elisa had never known: her father hadn't abandoned her. He lived in another town and had tried to stay in touch for years. But the letters never made it. Her grandmother, fearing more heartbreak, had kept them hidden. Elisa cried for hours. For her mother, her father, for everything she had believed. And in the last line of the letter, she read, "Don't let the fear of getting hurt stop you from living the love you deserve." The next morning, Elisa walked to Noah's house. She was nervous, palms sweating, heart racing. When he opened the door, she simply said, "I was never good at staying. But this time, I want to learn." Noah didn't speak. He just pulled her into a hug that held all the lost years. They didn't kiss in that moment. They didn't need to. Sometimes a new beginning is found in silence, in forgiveness, in a look that says, "I'm here." And from that day on, through repairs, coffee mugs, and late-night talks, they began to build what could still be. The days that followed were like a breath of fresh air for Elisa. She and Noah never defined what they were, and maybe they didn't need to. They just lived. Grocery shopping, morning coffees, napping on the couch to the sound of waves. Slowly, his presence began to heal the silent wounds inside her. Sometimes she still woke up startled, haunted by years of loneliness. But now, someone was there. Someone who held her hand without demanding explanations, who didn't rush her, and who understood her silences like reading a familiar book. Noah felt like home. And Elisa, at last, wanted to stay. But peace doesn't silence fear. When Elisa received a dream job offer in another city, that fear came rushing back. It was a position she had always dreamed of: stability, recognition. When she told Noah, she expected encouragement. But he simply smiled and said, "If it's your dream, I'll understand." Her heart clenched. Part of her wanted the new life. But the other part wanted to run into his arms. "And if I go?" she asked. "Will you forget me?" He was silent for a moment. Then replied, "If you go, I'll remember you every day. But I won't hold you back. I just want you to be happy, here or there." That night, Elisa walked alone to the beach. The sky was full of stars, the breeze was soft, and the ocean whispered questions she needed to answer. What mattered more? A title, a salary, a new city, or the peace of being with someone who truly saw her. For the first time, she wasn't afraid of love. She felt grateful. She ran back home, walked into the living room, and without saying a word, hugged Noah tightly. "I turned down the job," she whispered. "Maybe I'll go one day, or maybe not. But today I choose to stay. With you." He didn't say anything. He just kissed her, like time itself had waited for that moment. As the months passed, Elisa and Noah created a new rhythm. She began teaching art at the local school, and he opened a small woodworking studio. To outsiders, it was a simple life. But to them, it was everything. On Sundays, they cooked together. On Wednesdays, they wrote each other letters as if they were apart, just to remember how valuable each word was. And every night before bed, they'd whisper, "Thank you for today." There was no rush to marry, no pressure to plan everything. They knew the present was too beautiful to overlook. And together, they were learning to live, without guilt, without fear, without hiding. Elisa often says her story isn't about luck, it's about choices. Choosing love despite fear, choosing to stay despite doubts, choosing to grow without running away. Her life changed, yes, but not because she found someone. It changed because she stopped hiding from herself. And the love that was once left behind didn't survive by chance. It survived because it was real. Noah and Elisa aren't perfect. They still have hard days, quiet evenings, and unspoken thoughts. But they chose each other. And that's what truly matters. Because real love isn't about never leaving. It's about finding your way back. And choosing to stay. One day, while cleaning out the attic of her grandmother's house, Elisa found a memory box. Inside were faded photos, old notes, and a cassette labeled, "For When You Return." Heart-pounding, she took it to the local music shop to convert the audio. When she heard the voice, tears fell before she even understood the words. It was her grandmother. That soft, aging voice said, "If you're hearing this, you had the courage to come back. Don't blame yourself for leaving, my dear. Sometimes, running is how we find ourselves." That night, Elisa wrote a letter to herself, a letter of forgiveness. And for the first time, she felt free to move forward without carrying the weight of what she'd left behind. As Elisa found healing in the past, Noah faced a challenge of his own. He received an offer to sell his shop and move to a bigger city with better opportunities for his woodworking. It was something he'd always dreamed of. But for the first time, he hesitated. Sitting with Elisa under the soft glow of sunset on the porch, he asked, "What if this is my chance?" She looked at him warmly. "You don't have to choose between your dream and us. I'll go with you, wherever it is." But he shook his head. "What I've wanted for years was to have you here. And now that I do, I think my dream is simply not to lose you." And in that moment, they both understood. True love doesn't demand sacrifice. It invites growth, side by side. The following week, Noah took Elisa to an empty lot near the town center. Smiling shyly, he showed her the plans for a new project, a community space where he would teach woodworking, and she art. "I want to build something with you. Not just for us, but for the place that brought us back together." Elisa cried. Not because it was ambitious, but because it was simple and full of meaning. Over the next few months, they planned it together, raised donations, and quite literally built it with their own hands. It wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of everything they'd lived, healing, patience, and love. And on the day of the grand opening, under soft lights and the laughter of children running between easels and tools, they looked at each other and knew they were exactly where they were meant to be.